Hey, good evening. I appreciate everybody taking their time to come tonight to the presentation for alcohol and drug awareness. I am working for Battleground School District, but we work as a tandem with Vancouver and Evergreen to help promote as much safety and security as we can in our school districts. Right now, I'm up here because personally I am attached to this young man. He's my son. I kind of followed my footsteps. I did a career with Washington State Patrol, retired a few years back, and I have two sons now that are with the Washington State Patrol, and both of them are drug recognition experts, also known as DREs, where they deal with a lot of the impaired drivers or impaired people that are under the influence of drugs and alcohol. So they put together a pretty good presentation to help you out. A lot of information. It's great to see that some of you brought your kids. That way they can learn from it as well. He's going to go ahead and give his presentation, and he'll have a question-answer type situation at the end. So, Shane Kesler, he about 12 years with the Washington State Patrol right now, almost halfway through to his retirement. But anyway, he did a great job last night in Battleground School District, and tonight he's going to do a better job here in Evergreen.
All right. So, thank you for the introduction. Like I said, my name is Shane Kesler. I've been with Washington State Patrol for just a little over 12 years now, which is kind of hard to believe. But the majority of my career, I have been what's known as a drug recognition expert. So whenever we have somebody who's under the influence of something other than just, say, alcohol, a lot of times I get calls for responding to the scene, or even just over the phone. People will describe to me the kinds of behaviors, the patterns, the things that they're seeing, and I try to help them determine what kind of category this person might be under the influence of. Or it's also been my experience that sometimes it's not actually drug-induced. It's a medical condition, it's a mental health condition, or just something that was circumstantial at the time, but we worked through the process to be able to figure that kind of thing out. So with tonight, it's going to be like drinking from a fire hose. There's a lot of information to go over. If anybody has any kind of questions or doesn't understand something, just raise your hand and I'll do my best to try to clarify it for you as best I can. So it's just going to start off with a little bit of a video here.
Understanding substance use and abuse. Misuse of substances like alcohol and drugs is a growing problem in the U.S., and teens and young adults are most at risk, with half of all new drug users being under the age of 18, and 1 in 5 high school students having abused prescription drugs. Additionally, 1/3 of high school students currently use alcohol, 23% use marijuana, and 22% use all forms of tobacco combined. Decision-making in teens involves a chemical called dopamine in the brain's reward center. Dopamine helps transmit signals in the brain that make people feel happy. The number of brain receptors interacting with dopamine is higher in adolescence than at any other time of life. That means that when a teen is exposed to a reward, such as a compliment, the reward center reacts more strongly than it would for an adult. Also, being with friends increases the sensitivity to rewards and makes the already sensitive reward system even more sensitive. Feeling rewards more strongly and responding more intensely to what peers may think means that there are biological reasons for why teens sometimes decide to do things with their friends that they would never do on their own. This can be positive by encouraging friends to take on new challenges, but it can also lead to dangerous decisions, such as drug and alcohol use. Drug use and abuse can contribute to harmful short and long-term health risks. In fact, drug abuse can have long-term effects on a developing teenage brain. MRI scans of the brain have shown that people who have been using drugs for a long time have a smaller prefrontal cortex than people who have not been using drugs. The prefrontal cortex is the area where decision-making occurs. Drug use can result in poor grades, memory loss, and social problems. A lot of us have an idea about what a person dependent on drugs looks like. However, anyone can suffer from this type of addiction. Addiction doesn't depend on income, job, age, race, or color. It is a disease of the brain that can happen to anyone. Drug dependency is when a person consumes alcohol or drugs regularly, despite the fact that it causes issues in their life and relationships with others. Get help if you need it. Encourage your friends to get help too. If you or someone you love is struggling with drug use or abuse, call 1-800-662-HELP or visit www.easyread.drugabuse.gov.
So what these first couple of slides are going to introduce to you is just death by statistics. Washington State is actually going to be one of the more at risk for youth using drugs. And a lot of this contributes to the kind of environment that we live in. We're not like California where it's sunny 90% of the year, right? Washington State has lots of clouds, lots of dark times of the year, rain, everything like that, that prevents you from getting that sunshine, which gives your body vitamin D. And a lot of that is attributed to creating that sense of happiness, right? That sense of well-being. Well, when you're deprived of that, a lot of times that's leading to things like mental health problems, depression, anxiety. And so our society has become very heavily medicated, where we're relying on drugs and other chemicals to try to balance that system out, which, if you're using things in a prescribed dose by your doctor, can be very helpful. It can bring you back up, but when we start deviating from those prescribed doses, or we start branching out into things that are not so much regulated or tested, i.e. illicit drugs, it'll start having very negative effects, and especially when you're at a younger age, those effects can have much longer lasting consequences. So I'm not going to go death by PowerPoint here, but a lot of this information, we'll just kind of breeze through it. There was 103,000 overdose deaths from drug use in 2021. And if you look at the title there, that's actually slightly down. So we've been up in very high digits, and it's something to keep in mind. Now, why we're here today, you're here to gain a little bit of knowledge on drug impairment. You are here to gain a little bit of knowledge on the current drug trends. And I just ask that you kind of keep in mind that drugs are out there. They're very readily available to the public, and kids will experiment with them. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing anything malicious or anything like that. A lot of times it's attributed to peer pressure, from social anxieties, from curiosity, and what we're seeing now is a lot of trends are going up through social media, where either things are being downplayed or they're being upscaled by things like movies, where it's looking like it's something to do for enjoyment, when in reality it's going to have these very negative consequences. So just like I mentioned before, it can have long-lasting negative effects on quality of life, on your mental health, on your physical health, on your body's chemical makeup, and obviously on the legal side of things, if it has to get to the point where law enforcement actually has to get involved. This is a study that shows that the DEA tested illicit pills that they were getting off the streets, and 6 out of 10 of them were laced with fentanyl. Everybody here know what fentanyl is? Yeah, that's nasty, nasty stuff. My brother is responsible for putting together most of this PowerPoint. Unfortunately, he could not be here today because of a prior engagement, but he has been a very knowledgeable base on a lot of the information. He's actually part of why I got into the DRE program. And this is just a little bit about me. So I've been a drug recognition expert for the majority of my career, and I've also got other trainings in things like the criminal interdiction, crisis intervention training when we're dealing with people who are having kind of a mental health crisis. And I've been down here in the District 5 for my entire career. What I am not is a drug addiction counselor, I am not a doctor, and I am not a social worker. So my hope for you guys tonight is to be able to take this information that I'm going to give to you, and if you see somebody in your life or somebody around you that you think is starting to go down this path of drug addiction, that you guys might be able to open up and start having a conversation and get them the resources they need before it gets ever to the point of law enforcement intervention. And the disclaimer, this training will not make you guys experts, okay? This is just general information to give to you to have just a better idea of things to look out for. Again, we've got more statistics here. 50% or half of people 12 and older have used an illicit drug at least once in their life. Now, 61% of that was 8th graders and above between the years of 2016 and 2020. That blows my mind. It's just a graph that shows the uptick in drug overdose deaths going back from 1999 to 2019, and it has been a pretty steady climb. A lot of studies are starting to find that early drug abuse can correlate with substance abuse disorders later on in life, where they're having what we consider an addiction, and they're finding it harder and harder to get themselves off of drugs. Current drug trends that we're seeing are with marijuana, alcohol, and prescription medications. Those are going to be a lot of what is most prevalent with youth and with our minors. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that these things are very easily accessible and readily available now. Think about it, ever since Washington State legalized marijuana, how many marijuana and cannabis shops have been popping up on every single street corner. It's no different than that than back in the day when kids were seeking alcohol from parents or having people buy them for them, and they're getting it through these various means, but it's all because it's all readily available. Anybody have an idea what poly drug use is? Any show of hands? No? What's
Multiple drugs.
That is correct. It is actually more common when it gets to something where I'm evaluating somebody that they have more than one substance in their system than just a single substance. So whether that's alcohol and marijuana or methamphetamine and fentanyl, very often people are using multiple substances to try to, in their opinions, balance themselves out. And a lot of this stuff, like we mentioned before, is attributed to social media. It's seen in movies, TV shows, Instagram, TikTok, all of these things are coming up. I had a lady here last night when I was doing the presentation tell me there was something going around TikTok known as the Benadryl Challenge, which is making it sound like it's fun to take as much Benadryl as possible in one go. That ain't smart. That will have a lot of negative effects on the inside of your system, and it can lead to hospitalization or worse. Now, to kind of start things off, what we need to understand is this word right here. It's called homeostasis. Now, what homeostasis is it is different for every single person. It is what is considered your normal. Now, that's how much sleep you got each night. If you're normally a coffee drinker like I am, I know if I don't have my 2 cups of coffee in the morning, I can't function for the rest of the day. I feel sluggish, I feel foggy in the head, but it's different for everybody. Now, when you start introducing outside sources like drugs, alcohol, pills, anything like that, what that's going to do is it is going to affect your system by either like bringing you up or pulling you down. So this little gift of the guitar strings right here is the best analogy that I've seen to be able to picture it in your head. So if you're normal, if I were to say stretch a rubber band between my hands right here, you know it's going to be taut and it's going to be a straight line going back and forth. Now if I'm introducing drugs into my system, What that's going to do is it's going to either pull down on that if it's something that's trying to depress my system, or pull up. So if we have something like alcohol tends to bring people down. It causes those muscles to relax, your central nervous system to relax. That'll be like taking your finger and pulling down on it. Well, eventually those side effects are going to wear off, and it's going to be like letting go of that rubber band. So your body is going to try to produce different chemicals, and it's going to try to get itself back to that normal, in which case you're going to see this very up and down and up and down and up and down until eventually you get right back to that center of normal. Now, I'm sure you guys cannot read all of that, but what this is it's explaining how drugs work. Now, drugs a lot of times mimic the various systems inside of your body, and they actually run, or they affect how your brain is sending the signals to your body. So, one example that I like to use for this one, because alcohol is one of the most prevalent ones out there, it's one of the most abused drugs out there. What it'll do is the more that it gets processed through your system, it'll actually slow your central nervous system down. So what's known as a central nervous system depressant. Now, with that, what it means is that my brain might think, okay, raise my hand up and touch the top of my head. But the more and more of that substance that I have in my system that's running interference with all of the signals going from my brain to my muscles, it's going to start to have that effect where now I have a delay. I say, move my hand. Okay, now I'm going to move my hand. Or I may say, touch the top of my head, where I may try to touch the top of my head, but I actually end up hitting myself in the forehead. Yeah, picture that, that'll make you laugh. Yeah, this is just another picture that kind of shows what I'm talking about. So your brain, both consciously and subconsciously, is going to be sending those signals to the various parts and systems of your body, whether it's unconsciously telling your lungs to inflate and deflate to be able to breathe, your heart to beat, or if it's the conscious thing that's saying, hey, I need to take 5 steps going this way, it's going to tell all those various muscles that I need to do that task to be able to move. Now, the more that you have drugs and alcohol in your system, the more that's going to be affected, and you're going to start seeing these various physical signs and symptoms. Now, these are all of the different drug categories. We have 7 of them. We have the central nervous system depressants, the central nervous system stimulants, hallucinogens, dissociative anesthetics, narcotic analgesics, inhalants, cannabis, and what I like to call the other category. So if something doesn't fall into any of those, but it's having some kind of an intoxicating effect, it falls right under synthetics. Now, we're not going to go over all these tonight. We're going to go over what is most prevalent, which is going to be these guys that are highlighted in red. Now, one thing to picture, in my line of work, we always say the eyes don't lie. Because you may have somebody who's a very tolerant user, somebody who has been using for a large majority of their life. They may be able to fake things, maybe they'll talk a little bit normal. They're not as heavily affected as somebody who's, say, new to using a different kind of drug. But they cannot adjust their eyes. So certain drug categories will cause your pupils to dilate and go big, almost looking like a dinner plate. And then other categories will constrict them down to where they almost look like a little bit of a pinwheel. Now, the first category that we're going to talk about is going to be a central nervous system depressant, aka CNS depressants. Now, these are going to be alcohol, anti-anxiety medications, antidepressant medications, anything that's going to fall into that category. Most of your kind of prescribed pills that help to balance out emotional and mental strain, or sleep medications. These are actually what these kind of drugs are being prescribed for, that they help with, which is suicidal ideologies, anxiety, depression, and sleep. Now, what you're going to see with somebody who is under the influence is going to be a lot of those common things that we know of somebody who may be drinking too much. It's going to be thick, slurred speech, where if somebody's talking, they're going to try to blend all those words together. It's not word, then word, then word. It's all kind of blended together, and it's going to sound a little bit like they've got cotton in their mouth. You're going to see a lot of drunk-like behavior, a lot of difficulty with coordination. Nice fragments we'll get to in just a minute, but brings the system down, your central nervous system down. It causes all the muscles to relax. And so that's going to cause very sluggish and lethargic behavior. It causes the eyes to get bloodshot and watery, and depending on how much they have in their system, your eyelids may start to look droopy like they're about to fall asleep. Getting back to that topic of when we say the eyes don't lie. Your eyes naturally want to look straight ahead, okay? So when you have something that is going to depress your central nervous system, it's going to cause all those muscles to relax. And so when you have, everybody here has seen what field sobriety test looks like, right? You watch cops, you watch live PD or something like that, where they have the little pin in front of somebody's face and they're going back and forth, correct? Okay? So what that's doing is that's putting strain on the muscles of the eyes. Okay? The more intoxicated that somebody is, the more that you're going to start to see those eyes go from being a smooth movement to a jerking motion. So if you picture windshield wipers, somebody who's sober, their eyes are going to look like a windshield wiper on a very wet day, very gradual motion. And the more they have this kind of intoxicating substance in their system, it's going to start to look like a windshield wiper on a dry day where it kind of skips beats. Now, we have their counterpart, which does the exact opposite. So if the central nervous system depressant would be me grabbing your rubber band and pulling it down, this is going to be the one that we're using to push it up. This is designed to ramp your system up, to increase your heart rate, to increase your blood pressure, your attention, your energy levels. Now, what these kinds of drugs are used to treat are ADHD, narcolepsy, and even Parkinson's disease in some doses. But these are going to be where we're going to start to see most of the illicit drugs, things like methamphetamine, amphetamines, cocaine, even things like Adderall, which is a prescription, has a similar effect. Now, this baggie right here is what cocaine looks like, just a white powdery substance. This is actually some pretty big shards of methamphetamine, so it looks like very crystalline substance. And then that is a meth pipe. So it's pretty easy to see that that's not going to be used for smoking tobacco. Now, with a CNS stimulant, this is going to cause the pupils to dilate, to get very big, eyes bloodshot and watery. You're going to have increased alertness, lots of energy. It's going to look like somebody had maybe 2 or 3 cups of coffee too many. You may be talking to this person. They're going to be talking very fast, very kind of raspy voice. And they're going to have a very hard time staying on one topic because they've just got so much energy, they got to talk about everything. If I ask one person, hey, how'd your car break down right here? They may start off, oh, I broke down here about 3 hours ago. It was because I'm on a road trip from the other side of the country. No, it's because of my dog. You know, I've got a Chihuahua Shih Tzu, and I love those little dogs so much. They will go off on 10 different topics in a matter of just a minute. And you have to kind of constantly keep bringing them back. Now, on the physical side of things, one side effect that is very prevalent with somebody whose system is going up and up and up is going to be grinding their teeth. They're going to see that very flexing of their jaws, like they're constantly biting down, even if they don't have anything in their mouths. And a lot of times that leads to teeth falling out, grinding, very poor dental hygiene. Anybody ever heard the term meth teeth? Yeah? Okay. That's an actual thing, and that's because their body has so much energy from this substance, it has to have some kind of an outlet. So if that person has that much energy and they're required to try to stand still, their muscles are going to inadvertently try to do something to burn that energy off, whether it's ticking their fingers, whether it's tapping their toes, and a lot of times grinding their teeth. They're going to have very subtle to exaggerated body tremors where they're shaking. They're moving, and you can see it at their chest. If they're standing still, it'll almost seem like it's vibrating. And they're also, a lot of times, very prone to irritability. So if you're saying something that they're not liking, they may get very upset very quickly. No videos today. Okay, this right here is the next category that we're going to talk about. It's called the narcotic analgesic. This is going to be everything in our category with heroin and dealing with opioids. So that's what it's derived from, is the opium chemical. It comes in a lot of forms of medication that are generally prescribed for things like broken bones after surgery, because their effect is to block those receptors in your nervous system that cause the sensation of pain. It causes a very, very extreme downdrop in your energy, where a lot of times you're going to see people that look like they're about to fall asleep standing up. With this image right here, this amount of heroin right here, if somebody was to consume that all at one time, that would be enough to kill the person, because their system is going to start shutting down one by one because it's depressing so far, so quickly. That on the right is how much fentanyl it would take. So fentanyl is essentially going to be a highly concentrated form of heroin that is highly addictive, highly dangerous, and it causes a vast majority of the drug overdose deaths in Washington State. So this is what heroin and fentanyl looks like if somebody is going to be using it intravenously. It's kind of a nasty brown tar-like liquid, and it doesn't smell any better. In our line of work, a lot of times they teach us for recognition, sight, smell, things like that, where they bring it around so we can recognize if somebody has that kind of a substance with them. And believe me, you would never want to smell this. It smells like rotten cat vinegar mixed with chemicals and bleach and nothing you would ever want to put in your body. What you're going to see as far as the signs and symptoms are going to be droopy eyelids. They're going to be really depressed reflexes, so they're going to look like they're almost moonwalking. Their pupils, this is actually going to be the only drug category where you're going to see constricted pupils, where they're going to get very, very, very small. If somebody is coming off of their high, then a lot of times they're going to experience body aches, nausea, a lot of things that's going to make them feel like they're on the verge of death. Puncture marks, this is going to be the drug category that is most prevalent with intravenous use, so people using needles. And yeah, it's this term right here on the nod is what we refer to when you're talking with somebody, and as they're looking right at you in the face, they're going to start to look like they're almost falling asleep right there. Now their brain is still going. They can still hear everything you're saying, and when you wake them up, they'll be able to answer your question. So if I tell you, hey, Tommy, what time is it? And he's on the nod, it may take me about 20 or 30 seconds to get a response from him, but he will eventually respond answering the exact question that I asked. Because this one would show you exactly what a person who's under the influence of a narcotic looks like. And what it shows is a man that's standing over a fire hydrant, and he's almost like a mannequin, and somebody's trying to talk to him, and he's just completely non-responsive. He almost looks like he's just going down and down in slow motion, which if you're seeing something like that where somebody's unresponsive, and if you do see them move, if it's just this very, very slow, that's the time that you're going to want to start calling for medics and seeing if somebody has what's called Narcan. Does everybody know what Narcan is? Yeah, I'm seeing most of it. No? Okay. So what Narcan is it's a medication that a lot of times it comes in the form of like a nasal spray, and if somebody is overdosing on a narcotic, when sprayed inside the nose, is going to cause an almost immediate reversal of those side effects, and it'll bring them back from sometimes the edge of death. You can't overdose on the Narcan, but it can cause nausea or irritation, and just be very, very careful with it.
Just need one side. What man?
Oh, this gun gonna get wet as shit.
It's only in water right now.
I know, I'm just saying.
This is what you gotta do. These guys will catch my head and go get. Come on, man. Yo, buddy. Just to save these guys' lives. Yo. Wake up, man.
You're doing too, that's what you're supposed to do. put your knuckle
Come on,
into his
keep
rib.
breathing. I know what I'm doing. Come on.
Thank you, guys.
Yo.
There
Come on. There you go. Come on. Get it together, man. Come on. Breathe.
I just started doing chest compressions.
Come on. Come on, yo. Get it together. Yo. Keep breathing. Come on. Yo. Somebody be down 911, man. Yo. Yo. Come on. Come on, yo. You might have to hit him again, man. Yo. It takes a minute. It takes a minute? Yeah. Yo. There you go. Come on, you good? No, you good. Come on. Come on, keep breathing. Yo. He already hit him with it. He gave him two. Come on, dog. Come on, man. Yo. You gotta feel like you won't get up. You gotta feel like you won't. Get up, man. You gotta bring it over there. Get up.
Man, saved your life, dog. Wake up. You know what? You gotta feel like you're fine.
Come on, get up, man. Yo.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
Get on up.
All right.
I told you.
You didn't get robbed or nothing, man. You good, dog.
Okay, now, cannabis, aka marijuana, Mary Jane, the devil's lettuce, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same, okay? It's going to be what's most prevalent, aside from a few other things that we're not going to talk about tonight, with our youth. A lot of times it's because of the social media culture, it's because it's so readily available now, and it comes in so many different forms anymore. So when I say marijuana, I'm going to guess most of you guys are picturing like a big joint like from Cheech and Chong, right? Okay, it's not the case anymore. That's every once in a while we'll see something like that, but a lot of times we're seeing it more and more in these kind of forms right here, where it's in the oil or the concentrate form, or even those vape pens that now have THC oil. It can come in gummies, it can come in any different kind of forms. So just to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about, if you guys look at this picture right here, this is actually what it looks like in its vegetable form, like if it was harvested right from the plant and it's processed for rolling and putting and smoking. The trays that are next to it are a concentrated form of it, where they actually extract those oils from the plant and they make a highly concentrated kind of tar-like substance, or it's known as hash oil or dabs, where the THC content of the green leafy substance might be anywhere between 16 to 30% of THC, which is that chemical in it that causes the psychoactive effects of marijuana, that high feeling. The stuff that's in the oil may be something like 80 to 90% pure THC. That's why it's called dabs, is because when they're smoking it, you're only supposed to dab a little pen in the very tip, and you smoke it out of a smaller device like this. Now here's a better look at it. So this is the oil form that it comes out in. You could have it in the green vegetable-like matter, which is usually rolled in joints, but now we're seeing it more and more coming in the vape pens or the electronic cigarettes. Now here's the way to tell the difference between nicotine and THC. The nicotine is going to be a lot lighter in color, and if you were to hold up one of the pods that they use to refill these containers and you were to shake it back and forth, it's going to look very water-like, very fluid, versus the THC oil is going to be a lot more of the amber color. And if you were to move it back and forth, it's going to look a lot more viscous, kind of like if you're trying to pour maple syrup or honey. It's going to move a lot slower. But if you look at that picture in the upper right-hand corner, tell me that's not being advertised to a younger audience. How many of the adults here would rather have something that they're going to smoke that's Sour Patch Kids flavored? I don't think that's going for adults. Now, as far as the physical signs that you're going to see on somebody that's under the influence of cannabis, one thing that was the most obvious back in the day was the odor. I mean, it's very easy to smell when you have somebody that's been smoking the actual like green leafy vegetable form. But the new electronic versions, like the vape pens and the electronic cigarettes, a lot of times those are coming back actually as odorless. You will see bloodshot, watery eyes, depending on how long they've been using. They'll build up a tolerance eventually. Somebody who's a newer user, their pupils may start to dilate, versus somebody who's been smoking for years and years and years. A lot of times their pupils will stay the normal size. But the whites of their eyes, they actually turn red. Kind of like you see in those old-fashioned adult cartoons when they ingest a substance that they probably shouldn't have. Those eyes get really pink. That's an actual thing. It's called reddening of the conjunctiva. You'll see an incomplete thought process, relaxed inhibition, so their judgment and decision-making, they may have like a carefree attitude. One of the biggest examples that I see if I encounter somebody on the highway and I have to ask them to step out to see if they're safe to drive, they'll have a very carefree demeanor where most of you guys, if I tell you, hey, we're going to go ahead and step out of the car, I need to make sure you're safe to drive, otherwise we may have an arrest that we have to make. You're going to probably be a little bit nervous, right? Be a little bit on edge. Well, somebody who's very much so under the influence of cannabis may be treating the entire event like a joke or like, oh, this is kind of funny. So they're not really grasping the gravity of the situation. You'll see body tremors. So if, say, a person was asked to stand on one foot like so, you would actually see like in their legs, it's an almost vibrating motion with those muscles because they're kind of like contracting and releasing very rapidly. Eyelid tremors is another one, so if they were to close their eyes and lean their head back, it's almost going to look like they're kind of blinking, even though their eyes aren't open. Increased appetite. That's another stereotype that's an actual thing. A lot of my FTOs used to joke that if they grab 3 bags of Funyuns, that person's high. But that is one of the medical uses that it's actually being used for, on top of some people who use it for pain management or discomfort management. People who are going through like chemotherapy and have no appetite because of what the chemicals are doing to their stomach, they will take something that is cannabis made, and it will actually give them an appetite to be able to eat. Paranoia is going to be a sign that they've had quite a bit. And well, here's the dilated pupils. When I talk about the reddening of the conjunctiva, the pinks of the eyes, you can very clearly see that up top. So his pupils are actually pretty dilated. His eyes are very glassy, but you can see the whites of the eyes are actually starting to turn pink on top of being bloodshot. And we're getting into the synthetics. Now, the designer and synthetic drugs are kind of their own unique thing, because if we have any of the other 7 drug categories, whether it's meth, heroin, alcohol, PCP, all of those kinds of substances that if, say, I were to have 4 people lined up right here and they all consume the same thing, a lot of times they're going to exhibit a lot of the exact same symptoms. Their bodies are going to react the same way. Synthetics, however, you can have things like, has everybody heard of the drug spice? Used to be really popular back in a couple years ago. Most people were buying them at gas stations, and it was an unregulated drug until they started realizing of all the negative side effects that come with it and actually got outlawed. Now, if I was to have 3 people lined up right here that took the same hit from the same pipe smoking spice, which is a synthetic drug, they may have 3 completely different reactions. One person might look like they just took a hit of meth. One person might look like they just had 5 beers. The other guy might look like he was totally normal, that he just, a little sleepy. It's a drug category that causes, if I was to evaluate somebody, they're going to be all over the board. One of the big things that this is part that my brother put into the slideshow that he really wanted to get out there are these synthetic drugs that are being advertised now at a lot of gas stations that are what's known as a drug potentiator. And so what that means is that if they take something like this, like Tiana, and then they use another drug on top of it, so using polydrug use, it's going to amplify the effects of whatever drug that they're taking. So where that becomes extremely dangerous is for things like heroin. If you were to have a person take some of this, take some heroin, it's going to have a much stronger effect on that person with a lot smaller dose, and it could actually even get to the point where Narcan is no longer effective. So it takes away that person's ability to be brought back from the edge of death. And a lot of the concern that we have is if you look at all the packaging, you've seen that in every gas station, right? It's the back wall, it's got all of the various vitamins, pills, or dietary supplements that everybody has, but a lot of the packaging are very bright, they're very colorful, they have lots of cartoons on the front. They're being advertised to younger and younger audiences because they know that these people are very susceptible to their curiosity. They're trying to build some kind of life experience, and they're more likely to purchase something like that to say, whatever, let's give it a go. Now this right here, does that not look like just a bottle of protein powder or pre-workout? A lot of things that we see in high school now. This is a drug potentiator, and it can actually exhibit the signs and symptoms of somebody who's on a central nervous system depressant. But if a teacher who had no experience with any drugs or anything like that saw that in a kid's bag, well, I wouldn't think anything of it, right? Yeah.
Can you say what you just said one more time at the grade level of a high schooler?
I'm sorry?
Can you say what you just said right now, but at the grade level of a high schooler?
At the grade level of a high schooler?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
When someone whispers to you, those were big words.
Perfect, yes, I know. I really wish it was easier for me to be able to speak, but a lot of the stuff is very technical language. So with something like this, it's going to exhibit signs of that drug category that we talked about, a central nervous system depressant. Same thing as like alcohol, pills, things like that, where you're going to have that kind of sluggish behavior. You're going to see nystagmus, which is, if I did that pin trick, they're going to see that involuntary jerking of the eyes. But it's just the fact of the packaging, everything is being marketed that looks like things that high schoolers might be carrying in their backpack. So I know, when I was in high school, I used to go do weightlifting. A lot of the guys kept protein powder bottles, pre-workout bottles in their gym, or their lockers. And something like this, that is an actual drug, or a drug potentiator, it looks like it would fit in with any of those bottles. It's designed to be pretty inconspicuous.
Is there a warning label on them?
I believe so. I haven't actually checked one out myself personally, but most of these things come with some kind of a warning label on the side of them, I believe. I wish I had an exact answer for you, but
Where are these purchased?
Can teenagers buy this?
yes,
A teenager cannot buy this even though it's a depressant.
it's being advertised as a dietary supplement. So a lot of times when we get to things that are synthetic drugs, the people who are manufacturing these are not dumb. So my example with spice, when this drug was outlawed, a lot of chemists went and looked at the actual molecule that was considered the drug and outlawed. And what they did is they took one atom and moved it one space down. Now it's considered a completely new substance. So that's not illegal. It's a lot of the challenges that we have with the legal system as far as outlawing certain drugs versus drugs that do have possible medical applications. It becomes a very difficult and complex system to navigate. Imodium. So Imodium is a low-functioning opioid. So these are things that you can buy over the counter that nobody would ask any questions unless you're trying to buy 50 of them all at once. What they are used to do is to block withdrawals or bypass drug testing.
I didn't know that.
I'm going to go to the next slide right here because this is going to be the easiest one to talk about. Benzodrex, it's a nasal spray, it's an allergy medication, but much like any medication that you get from your doctor, if you are taking it at a prescribed dose, totally fine. Yes, it's going to have a list of side effects, but generally those side effects are going to be pretty minimal, right? Now, what if I told you I was prescribed to take 1 pill a day for a certain medical condition, but I decided to take 10 in one sitting? You would think I would probably have some pretty adverse side effects, right? Okay? Because you are building this chemical up in your body to such a degree that it's going to start having these negative effects. And a lot of youth are doing it with allergy medications because it has a nearly similar chemical makeup as meth. But if you take 1 nasal spray, fine. Don't worry about it. You're not going to come back on a drug test for being meth positive. But if you were to sit there and do an entire bottle in one sitting, you're going to probably have a pretty negative effect on your internal system. And things like this, you can purchase on Amazon. And they don't generally sell them as just a single, which I'm sure you probably could buy it like that, but they also sell them in 64 packs. What one person is going to need a 64 pack unless you're planning to resell them at a store? Probably nobody, right? And you have things like Kratom. So Kratom is another one of those fun substances that's being advertised as a dietary supplement. It's a plant-based opioid, and if you take what they tell you on the package, a lot of times you won't see a whole big side effect, but a lot of people take more than what they're supposed to, and it starts to have these effects that make somebody look like they're impaired by a different chemical substance. But it can definitely have a negative effect. Now, this is Narcan. It's used to treat opioid overdoses like we talked about before. So I know you said you didn't know what Narcan is. That's what it looks like right here. In fact, the opioid epidemic has become so bad. I was at my barber's yesterday getting a haircut, and he actually showed me that he keeps a box in his drawer at a barbershop. You insert the tip into the nose, spray. These Narcan packages come, and each package has instructions on the back to give you exactly how to apply. Just if you see somebody that you think is having an opioid epidemic or an opioid overdose, first thing do, call 911, get somebody there. If you have Narcan available, this can reverse those effects. The only thing that I do caution you guys on is if you're bringing somebody out of a opioid overdose, be ready for them to be very upset. A lot of times when they're coming out of it, they are pretty irritable. Getting to the last couple slides here. These are all going to be about just ways that kids are hiding them now. So this is a brand known as Sprayground. They have a lot of backpacks, clothing items, things on their website that have hidden pockets, concealable compartments, very inconspicuous, and they're designed to hide. But again, tell me who that's being advertised to.
I didn't know this when I was reviewing the other spray gun bags that I have, but spray gun bags come with a secret compartment. Let me just go ahead and show you guys. See, it's like right here on the bottom. And then they all come with this card, right? It says, "Congratulations, you found the infamous stash pocket. Now don't tell anybody."
I carry a backpack every once in a while. They can be useful.
Yeah.
Am I going to say that an adult's not going to have that? No. But when you have SpongeBob SquarePants sitting on there, I'm going to guess it's probably advertised to a younger audience. The same thing can be seen through hats. These are one of the more common things. they have a hidden compartment on the inside, the lining, that if you were to just take the hat, even look inside it, you're not going to notice. But if you were to run your hand through there, there is a lining on the inside behind the brim that you could stuff a packet or whatever have you.
Melon Hats has a secret pocket in here. I'll see if I can get a better close-up of it. But you can shove maybe a key in there or some money. Did I ever use that? I thought I was going to use it with maybe put like 20 bucks in there in case I run out of cash.
And then one of the most common ones are shoes. A lot of YouTubers are going on here and they're showing these products and they're showing all the hidden compartments and storage and everything, and they're being advertised as hiding your personal effects. So the person that is reviewing these shoes is putting money in there, they're putting like a passport. It's actually pretty humorous right here because the opening clip for the video shows him stuffing a Snickers bar down in it. But what it is on the inside of the lip, right here at the very top where it meets your ankle, there is a pouch that you can stuff stuff down into the back compartment of the shoe itself.
Let me just show you this pouch right now. I think you're going to be pretty intrigued by it. Right in that collar, some Velcro. You can just open it up, and you can store a lot of stuff in here.
A lot of times people are advertising them as gag gifts, but there are flip-flops that can contain alcohol. There are backpacks that can have dozens of hidden compartments. Hoodies that actually have concealed vape pens in the string where they actually put the tip in their mouth looking like they're chewing on it, but what they're doing is they're actually smoking. So just be aware, things like that are out there. Oh God, me back in the younger days. So the individual on the far side of the screen there, that is my older brother. Obviously, my father, the retired trooper in the center, and then me on the other side. But this is my brother and I's email address. If you guys have any questions, if you need anything, if you wanted to put out one of these talks for a community group that you're involved with, please feel free to shoot us an email. We'd be happy to at least have a conversation with you guys.
Thank you for coming.